Hey guys, today I want to talk about how dating women is not easier than dating men. Something that really grinds my gears is the bisexual woman who has almost no experience with women and the straight woman who has zero experience with women. And these women tend to put women in general as a whole on a pedestal because they deal with mostly men and dating is hard. So they blame dating on men. They don't even blame it on themselves. They don't take any accountability. So these women have called women spiritual, ethereal, special, the womb of life. And it's like, yeah, women give birth, big deal. It really doesn't take much to have sex, have a baby. It's been happening since humans were on this planet. It's cool, it's interesting, but it's really not special, honestly. It's not. And it's easy to have sex and get pregnant. It is. And some of the most awful people have sex and get pregnant. So it's not always an ethereal, amazing experience. So I just want to say, dating is hard. Dating is rough, especially in 2026, where people are I would say a lot of people are avoidant. They're not in touch with their emotions. They want relationships, but they don't want the responsibility of the relationship. They want that fairy tale love, but they don't want to do the work that it takes to maintain that love. They don't realize that love is not the feeling. Love is not the honeymoon phase. Love is actually choosing somebody when they annoy the fuck out of you. Love is choosing someone when they make a mistake and they hurt you and they disappoint you and they make you feel like shit. And still choosing to love that person. Not saying you should love somebody who's abusive. I'm just talking about normal human mistakes that every healthy person can make every now and then. Again, not saying you should stay with somebody who's abusive. A little preface, I want to preface with, I don't hate women. I love women. I'm a lesbian. I've been dating women for 15 years. So those are my credentials for today's video. Currently I'm in a relationship. I would say it's pretty healthy. We're mature. We handle our problems. We have some problems, but we handle it. I don't hate women. I don't hate men. I also don't have internalized misogyny, if you think that that's what this is. Here's the thing, people. Saying and noticing the fact that women aren't perfect is not internalized misogyny. I am a woman myself, and I love being a woman. I have no qualms about being a woman, except the fact that I have my period and I need to pee a mess. I hate that about being a woman. But otherwise, I love being a woman, and I love women. Because I'm a lesbian. I'm attracted to women. But over my 15 years of dating, I have learned all of these things. I have learned that women are not perfect. I actually never grew up or surrounded myself with the lesbian community ever. I was never a part of it. The lesbian community and even the gay community can be quite cultish. You won't find a lot of lesbians talking about this stuff because they don't want to be ostracized. Being gay, especially being a lesbian, especially being a gay man, you get ostracized from even your family, from friends, from your community that you live in. So a lot of gay people try really hard not to talk badly about each other. But I've never really been in the gay community. I really only have straight male friends. And I do have a couple lesbian friends, but they're like me. They're logical, and they also aren't within the gay community. They're more so friends with anyone and everyone. They're not like, oh, I'm just gonna be friends with lesbians or non-binary people. Like, they're friends with everybody and anybody. They don't judge. So they're like me, a little bit more open-minded about it. So never really been part of the lesbian community, but the reason you won't find a lot of lesbians talking about this is because they don't want to be ostracized from the lesbian community. So women don't talk badly about women publicly because they don't want to be ostracized from their friend group, which is kind of understandable. I get it if you don't want to be alone. I've been there. So essentially I used to be a serial monogamist, which means I went from relationship to relationship to relationship. I'm on my 7th relationship, serious long-term relationship at this point. And I have dated, not slept with, dated at least over 60 people in my life, gone on 60 dates, including with men, mostly women, but definitely been with some men. I've had some boyfriends, but that was like way back in the day. So why are women difficult to date? You know, it's not just men, but men can be difficult to date. Everybody's difficult to date in 2026, but why is it, what is the difference between men and women, and why are women also difficult to date? Because we don't talk about it enough. So I'm here to bring to light the truth about dating women from a woman's perspective. Now, in a lesbian relationship, there's no roles like there is in a straight dating experience, you know? When you go on a first date with a man, the man usually pays. There's chivalry. The man usually plans the date. With lesbians, there is none of that. So, in lesbian relationships, this is how it goes, and this is why it's complicated. A lot of the times, nobody takes control, right? And those are the dates and relationships that never go anywhere, and they just end up as situationships. And they're both flighty because they both don't really know what to do, especially if one or both of them has never really dated a woman. So a lot of lesbian dates will be flaky. They'll be flighty, they will ghost you, they won't even show up to the date, or neither of them will tell either person that they're interested, and the communication will just, and the relationship will just fall apart. That is a lot of lesbian experiences, especially when I was younger, in my 20s. We would go on one date, and then we'd never hear from each other again. And it's not because we didn't like each other, it's just because neither of us took charge, because neither of us are men. It was never told or put upon us that we're the ones that take charge, that we're the ones that plan the date and pay for the dinner or whatever. Like, neither of us were taught that. So we're just like, okay. And we're both too afraid to be rejected. Because as women, we're taught that eventually someone else will take control. Eventually someone else will take the lead and lead you to the relationship you're supposed to have. You know, movies teach you that somebody else is going to take control if you are a woman. So if you're both women, who's taking control? We don't know. And then, a lot of the times, the studs, the butches, the women that kind of resemble more masculine women, everything's put on them. Everything's put on them. Now, I've never dated a stud or a masculine lesbian. I usually go for femmes or tomboys. But, and usually tomboys, okay, what's the difference between a tomboy and a stud, you may ask? A tomboy looks like a woman, but she's a little bit more rugged. Me. She looks like me. Like, you can tell she's a woman. You don't know if she's straight or gay. She could be bi. You just don't know. But typically they look like women, but they go fishing. Tomboys can also be straight. So you actually don't know if this is a straight tomboy or a gay tomboy. So I'm usually attracted to femmes and tomboys. So right now, like my girlfriend, I would say that she's a tomboy. She's not a femme. So unfortunately, the women who look more masculine, they get pushed this role of, you're the man, you pay for the date, you take me out, you buy me stuff, and let's just say women can be very entitled for absolutely no reason. And it's like, what are you putting on the table? Because in my mind, in a woman's mind, sorry, pussy is not enough. Maybe for a man, pussy can be enough, but for a woman, pussy's not enough. So that's another thing. Women aren't impressed very easily. Women can be entitled. They can expect to be paid for, especially if the woman you're dating kind of looks like a man or looks more manly. Meanwhile, those lesbians aren't necessarily masculine on the inside. Actually, some of the most feminine women I've ever met look masculine. Some of the most masculine women I've ever met look feminine. So the inside doesn't necessarily correlate to what they look like. Just putting that out there. So women can be entitled and expect a lot without giving a lot in return. So the next thing is women aren't impressed very easily. It's hard to impress a woman. As lesbians, we find out very quickly how difficult it is to date women, especially when we're younger, because we go on the apps, we're constantly ghosted. It honestly doesn't even matter how hot you are as a woman, or if you're slightly average looking as a woman and you're trying to date women. Women don't give a shit about you. It is so hard to impress a woman and convince her to even go out with you on one date. So as a lesbian, you know what they say when gay men, when they get on Grindr, okay, that's another hell. It's like these gay men just want sex, 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 and they can't get away from it. These gay men don't even want a relationship or know how to have a relationship. Okay, maybe that's not great. But if you're a woman on a lesbian dating app or a regular dating app looking for women, it's hard to even get a date. It's hard, even if you just want sex as a woman, it is hard to find somebody who just wants to have a good time. You kind of got to go out to the club to find a woman to have a good time, which I don't particularly like doing. There was a time in my life where I was just kind of seeking casual relationships, and they were so hard to find. Even when I lived in a city, a very gay city, Philadelphia. I found it eventually, but it took a few months to just find one person who was like, all right, let's do casual. But even then, women catch feelings so fast that casual relationships for women are almost impossible. Because even if I, as a woman, am like, okay, I can do a casual relationship and my mind is in that area, the other woman will catch feelings even if we're not compatible. Even if they know that we shouldn't be together, they will catch feelings and there will be drama. Another thing is the lesbian community is what they call incestuous. And I don't mean sisters are dating sisters. No, it's not like that. What I mean is everybody's dating everybody. If you've ever seen the L Word, it is a bit dramatized, but the basic premise is fairly true, which is everybody's either slept with everybody or dated everybody. And it's like, okay, my ex is dating your ex, and your ex is dating my ex, and I'm dating your ex, and the lesbian community is very small, and they're all sleeping with each other. I have never experienced this. One of my exes was kind of like this, but that was just her. She was interested in all of my exes and wanted to message all of my exes. That was just a her thing. She was kind of a sicko. But that has nothing to do with the incestuous nature of the lesbian community. I was never into that, and I never really participated. I never dated my friends' exes. Never wanted to, it just wasn't like that. Again, never really was friends with lesbians, so. Here's another thing. Women are mean, but subtly. Have you ever heard about how women friendships are just full of fakeness and jealousy and hidden motives and manipulation. It's no different in women to women dating relationships. Women are brutal. When a woman is abusive, she might not be physically abusive, although women are physically abusive. She might not be physically abusive, but she will be verbally and emotionally and mentally abusive. And abuse from women is more insidious, it's more covert, and it's more manipulation tactics. Just look at serial killers, female serial killers versus male serial killers. You can actually see how both the female brain works and the male brain works just by looking at serial killers. Women will typically slowly poison their victim or perform some type of slow, methodical torture onto their victim. Just look at Munchausen's by proxy. That's just one itty-bitty example of how women go about their psychopathic needs or sociopathic needs, where it's like, I want all this attention and I want all this notoriety and whatever, so I'm going to make my child sick to get attention for myself. Or you'll see there's actually some nurses who killed babies and tried to save those babies, and even sometimes did save those babies just to get the notoriety of being a good nurse. You'll see many disgruntled wives slowly poisoning their husbands through their food and their cooking. Meanwhile, men are more outwardly overt. So yelling, hitting, shooting, stabbing, you name it. It's very different. So an abusive woman is the same way. She might not be a serial killer, but she is going to abuse you more mentally, emotionally, verbally. So if you think like more women are being abused in relationships, think again. I'm pretty sure it would be an even playing field because men are going to report it less because they don't want to be made fun of or shamed. They're going to talk about it less because they don't want to be made fun of or shamed, because women are smaller, right? Women are the smaller sex. They're less strong, they're less tall, and overall, a man can easily overtake any woman. And an average man can overtake a bodybuilder woman. And it's understandable to be like, well, men are more intimidating than women. Yeah, sure. But if you are in a romantic relationship with a woman and you love her and you're a non-confrontational man and you want to make her happy and you want to have a peaceful life, you're a more docile type of man, you might be with a woman who's abusive to you, who's mentally, emotionally, verbally abusive to you, and you might just accept it because maybe you don't want to be shamed, you don't want to be laughed at. You say to yourself, man up. You say, maybe she's right. Anything like that, anything to justify it. But as a woman who's dated abusive women, we don't take it. And I look at an abusive woman just as dangerous as an abusive man, in my opinion. I'm a very small woman. I'm only 5'1", so most people are taller than me, so most people intimidate me. I try not to let them. I try to be the tough guy, but abusive women are just as scary to me as an abusive man. Just saying. And sometimes mental, verbal, and emotional abuse is worse than physical abuse because, it's like 5 years later from my abusive relationship and I'm still affected to this day. I had to go through 2 years of therapy. It's incredibly traumatizing, and I think it's changed me forever, unfortunately. Not for the better. It's really made me untrusting of most people, unfortunately. And it's not because I think everybody's abusive or narcissistic or whatever. It's just simply my brain has been rewired because of the emotional, verbal abuse that I went through with this person. So women can be just as dangerous as men. And it's unfortunate because take all the things that abusive men do, really horrible, right? It's horrible. And it is. I'm not saying it's not. But it's minimized when a woman does it. When a woman hits a man, when a woman calls a man stupid, when a woman slaps a man, when a woman tells a man that he's nothing and he's a piece of shit, that's minimized. It is. Just, I think they did an experiment where they put a woman hitting a man in the street. Nobody stopped them. Nobody stopped any of it. But it is abuse and it can be dangerous. So dating an abusive person is not good, but it is less stigmatized. And people think women are just overall less abusive and less dangerous, but I would disagree. I would say we are ignoring and minimizing the abuse and toxicity and even like workplace abuse and workplace toxicity and family abuse and family toxicity. We are minimizing the female version of that. I've met more people than I can count that have had abusive mothers. And nobody really like thinks about that mothers are women, right? We think of mothers as some sort of other worldly thing, and we talk about abusive mothers and we don't think, hey, wait a second, women can be incredibly, extremely abusive too. And we need to think about that. And we don't. Okay, next. That was a bit on the extreme, but that's just to say, I don't think we realize that there's just as many women abusers as there are male abusers within romantic relationships, within family relationships, within friendships, within school, within work. There are just as many abusive women, and they're more covert, which is why they're able to be hidden and they're not held to account as much as the male abusers are. Next, women are less straightforward communicators, okay? You know that classic situation where you say, hey, are you okay? You seem kind of upset. You know, I'm fine. Essentially what a woman tells you is kind of like she means the opposite. When she's like, yeah, go out with your boys. Go out, do whatever you want. Do not do whatever you want. Women are not straightforward communicators. Men are. Men say it like they mean it. And I'll admit, I can kind of be similar as a woman. I can, in my relationship, say like, yeah, I'm fine. It's whatever. Mostly, though, I do that because I'm just exhausted and I'm tired of, like, sometimes you're just tired of being honest and trying to talk about it and trying to talk to somebody who's, like, purposefully misunderstanding you. So, yeah, sometimes I am like that. But mostly and initially, I try to be a straightforward communicator. I try to be a logical communicator. And even when I am being a little, like, passive-aggressive, I try to tell myself, hey, being passive-aggressive is not going to solve the problem. So, yeah, women are more passive-aggressive, less straightforward communicators. Like I said in the beginning of this video, dating women, especially as a younger lesbian, but even now, as a 33-year-old woman, women just ghost you. I don't know who's worse at ghosting. I would love to hear the statistics on that, but I've been ghosted more times than I can count. Women are very flighty, and they don't always say what they mean. They can say, oh, I really like you, and you're amazing, and I want to hang out with you, and you're so cool, and then they're just gone the next day. And these women aren't players. These women aren't like, oh, I'm going to sleep with every guy on the block. a lot of the times these women are just looking for attention, validation, to know that they're still wanted, even though they're not really looking for a relationship. They're not really looking to go on a date. They're just looking for attention, they're bored, whatever it is. A lot of women are like that on the dating apps. And they're not going to tell you that they're like that. Next, it's more difficult for a woman to maintain sexual attraction in a long-term relationship. I would say men are a little bit easier in that sense. Men have spontaneous desire, which means a woman can just flash him a boob and he's ready to go. But a woman needs more than that. A woman needs emotional connection. A woman needs vulnerability. They just need more and more and more and more and more. And there comes a time in a relationship where you can have all of that, but you're just bored. You're just bored in the relationship. That's where the term lesbian bed death comes from, because it is so common in lesbian relationships because actually both women will lose interest in sex. And the bed dies, and that's why they call it lesbian bed death, because they both are like, meh, I'm bored in this relationship. You don't bring me any, there's no fire, I don't desire. And then of course, women go through menopause, and menopause kills sexual desire because of the hormones and shit. So women tend to more easily lose sexual attraction. Even in a 1 to 2 year relationship without menopause, it is just more likely that a woman loses interest in sex faster with a long-term partner than a male does. Now, people say, like, oh, well, lesbians, the divorce rate is higher, the abuse rate is higher. What's going on there? And I'm going to explain this. It's true. Women are more emotional. They are. Men are emotional too, but women are more emotional. Even if a man gets emotional, he kind of knows how to put it down, bottle it up, keep it quiet, let me just put it on the back burner for now, be a man, man up, deal with it. Women are on the other hand, we're not taught that. They're not told that. And women are more likely to become emotional over smaller things. And that can make a relationship really difficult for a straight couple, but especially for a lesbian couple. Because when one woman becomes emotional, and if the other woman is not stoic or more chill, another word that's great is neurotic. I think women face more neuroticism than men do, typically, but it doesn't mean that there are lower neurotic women out there. There definitely are. So actually a good relationship experts have stated, is someone with high neuroticism and someone with really low neuroticism. Because the person with the high neuroticism is going to be like, oh my God, everything is terrible, everything's falling apart. Well, the person with the lower neuroticism is like, calm down, it's going to be okay. And they kind of level each other out a little bit. Now, when you have a relationship with two women who are high on the neuroticism, which is actually way more likely, you're going to see a lot of divorces, breakups, and unfortunately abuse, because it can be explosive, especially when both partners are emotionally immature. When you put two emotionally immature women together, high neuroticism, there's going to be love bombing, there's going to be U-hauling, which means they're going to move fast in their relationship. They're going to be in love and married in 2 months, moving in together, getting pets. And then 2 months later, they're going to be abusing each other. And then another 2 months later, they're going to be broken up. I've been there. And I've seen it happen with other lesbians. I've again, been friends with a few lesbian women, especially back in college, and I've seen them in really horrific lesbian relationships. It's just a whirlwind. A lot of lesbian relationships are a whirlwind, unfortunately, because of the neuroticism, the emotions, and then the emotional immaturity, unfortunately. So the best lesbian relationship you can ever have is either both are low on the neuroticism or one is low on the neuroticism. They're both emotionally mature, accountable, and considerate. Neither are entitled, both are fairly humble. This is probably going to be when you're older, so mid to late 30s, early 40s, best time to get in a lesbian relationship. Both are self-aware. They're self-aware and they have integrity. So those are the traits that you want to look for in a woman. It's incredibly important when you're a lesbian to be, first of all, be those traits, to have those traits and to be that type of a person, and to find somebody like that. And unfortunately, you have to wait a little bit. You might have to wait till you're older to find that type of a lesbian relationship, because lesbian relationships are just explosive, because women are just more passionate and emotional and neurotic and all these things. And so it's like fire with fire, and it's just like an explosion. Or it's like gasoline on the fire, you know? In saying all of that, I hope that wraps it up and gives you a little bit more of a dive into not only the community of the lesbian and why it's hard to be a lesbian, but also just why it's hard to date women in general. I'm really glad I'm not a man, because there are so many expectations put on men by women that are almost impossible to achieve. You know, there's definitely expectations from the men, like be sexy, have sex with me, things like that. Those are things that are fairly easily achievable, especially when you're attracted to the man, or especially if you care about yourself, you care about how you look. Being a woman is a tad easier. The expectation in general for women in this life is a little bit less than it is for men. Women put way too much on men, and some of it is almost impossible to achieve. Like, you gotta 6'6", 6 figures, 6 feet, 6 inches. And I do have to say, I feel bad for men. I feel for men, because I would say, even though dating women is hard, it is easier to be a lesbian than it is to be a man. Because when a woman comes into my life and she starts to become entitled or expects me to pay for things, she's out. I'm not gonna put up with that. And a lot of women won't. Women have less expectations of other women. Women are less afraid, intimidated, or creeped out by other women. And women look at women just like, again, like they're ethereal, like they're beautiful. Let me tell you this. Women are just as gross, they're just as mean, they're just as nasty, they're just as abusive, and they're just as horrible and narcissistic and entitled as any man you've ever met. And that is the truth about women. Not some ethereal, beautiful angels that are perfect in every way and magical and regal. They're not. They're humans. Women are humans. And they're just as terrible as men sometimes. So, if you like this kind of content, sorry for the harshness. I still like women. I date one, and I am one. But we're just humans. We're just humans. We're nothing special. So anyway, feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.